Hello, everyone. This is Dave March coming in from Land of Confusion. And as if you guys have been watching our on the group, you already know this, but some other people don't. Don has decided he needs to depart the show for other pastors. He's apparently the vice president of technology for a new audio startup, so he doesn't really have the time to do the show anymore. But today we have two people coming in at the last minute. One, I believe, both have offered to help host and it's in the future, so maybe we'll be bringing different people in to help that out in the future. I hopefully will have Don back because I want him for at least one more episode with Franco, who both have like musical talents they want to share. So anyways, I'll first introduce my one hopeful is Flicker. Who tell us about yourself, Flicker?
Well, I think I can be a little bit more forthcoming this time.
Yeah.
I live in Guam.
Okay.
It is now 7 o'clock in the morning here. And as I said, I've got my morning cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born and raised in Baltimore or in the environs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived on both coasts. And I've spent the last, I guess, decade and a half here in Guam, which is a lovely place. It's a tropical island,
Yeah.
But it's very hot. Today, it's actually very cool, and it's 79 degrees.
And the other person we have here today is another returning guest, Brian Stevens.
Hello. So, a little bit about me: born and bred, and live in Marietta, Georgia. It's a suburb of Atlanta. And I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a therapist now started my own private practice. I'm on month 3 of that. So enjoying that. And I guess I'm a Ricochet. They've got that little badge on my Ricochet avatar. So but, I joined Ricochet back in the, is back when they said sign up early, it's coming from Facebook.
Okay.
And then I was a free member for the longest time, because even when the free membership ran out, the system never got around to charging me. So
I had several magazine subscriptions go that way.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, y'all need to charge me. So yeah, been on Ricochet since day one.
Okay. So this was kind of a bit more of an impromptu roundtable format. I was asking each one of us to bring in like an issue or something we can discuss in a kind of roundtable format, just to keep things going for it, almost like some of the panel shows, but without a set topic. I'm certainly interested. I don't know if you guys, I might start off, but have you guys had a chance to hear about what's been going on with the latest stuff about the insurrection on Jan 6th? The fact that they suspect that the FBI was not as forthcoming, or as might have been as kind of an instigator or suppress the information, and a lot of the mainstream media is pushing back against that narrative.
Well, I've heard about it. Yeah, I tend to say, I think my classic line from that is, gee whiz, has the FBI, who would ever believe that the FBI would enlist agent provocateurs?
Yeah, not like they haven't been doing this since, I don't know, before they were founded. I mean, we have someone was complaining like, I can't believe this is happening, and I'm like, were you around for COINTELPRO? You were one of those people they were infiltrating back in the 70s, and this guy's like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell what is and isn't real, and people say this and they say that, and so from my point of view, I know that the FBI has a long history of infiltrating groups and then perpetrating the crime.
Right.
That they incite the crime, and now we can arrest people. Right. So the goal is the arrest. It's not actually solving. It's just not preventing crimes. It's we're going to generate the crime so we can arrest people. And that seems to be a history that the FBI has going back in time, you know, entrapment's supposed to be wrong, but it seems lots of police organizations entice people into committing crimes from the FBI on down, and then yay, now we've got our arrest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but there's something else going on here, which I don't know if it was intended, but they really have, I don't know, a few hundred people essentially in solitary confinement awaiting trial on, I don't even know what the charges are. I guess trespassing mostly.
Yeah, trespassing.
Like, right, but we won't give you bail. You can't possibly get out because you're, yeah, some sort of threat. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's just
which sucks. I'm not going to say it doesn't suck and it's not wrong, but and I expect that out of the Biden administration. Look, when Obama was president, they took a guy, found some reason to arrest him, and blamed him for the embassy being overrun. I mean, that we know that that's what they do. The IRS deliberately, you know, it's okay for them to do that. It was okay for Timothy Geithner to have massive tax bill. They're just, the reality is they abuse power all of the time. Democrats abuse power all the time, and Republicans don't care because they're part of the power structure. As long as they get their goodies. I mean, basically, to me, it's all like it would be as if in Yes Minister, the moment that Jim Hacker gets into office, he just settles in and never fights Sir Humphrey.
Yeah,
that's your average Republican.
Well, I have a slightly different perspective on it, and that's it goes back to Dinesh D'Souza when he was arrested for what, sort of misappropriating or $25,000 of a campaign.
Yeah, he said he overpaid.
But his sentence was to go through psychotherapy. I mean, you know, and I think he was also confined to New York or house arrest or something like that. But that was years ago, and I thought, oh, it's a one-off. It's a terrible thing, a terrible, unjust thing, but it's a one-off. And now it looks like they're doing this to hundreds of people at a time, and they, you know, I'm afraid that they might continue to find people and just arrest them. And, you know, I guess if you charge them, habeas corpus doesn't apply, but something is, oh, this is just wrong.
I agree. But as long as the media is totally in their pocket, right? They can do whatever. I mean, they can do whatever they want. They can break any law that they want. They can do anything. I said in a Ricochet post that Biden could rape and murder a small child, a 4-year-old, and nobody would call him out on it. No, none of the media would. That also, oh, it didn't happen. We have it on video. Oh, it's Russian propaganda. It's whatever. There's nothing that any of these people in power can do wrong or break any law that the media will acknowledge.
Which Biden? Because apparently one Biden has sort of done half of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, President Biden couldn't do it.
Well, I know, but I mean, if his son is immune, well, then clearly the president is twice as immune.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
conspiracy theories already.
I mean, I'm not even. Yeah, but I'm not even need to invoke a conspiracy theory. I can just see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just watch the lack of response, and it's okay to all these people, and it's okay to the media, and it's okay to the Democrat. I don't know what's wrong with the average American Democrat, right? I do not understand how, because I know them and they don't seem like dark, evil people to me. Yet they continue to vote for some of the most vile people on the face of the planet who want to be tyrants, want to be technocrats, want to destroy everything about America, and you keep voting for them. It's like the people of Baltimore or Portland.
Mm.
Why do you keep voting for these people?
Yeah,
They've delivered you nothing but suffering for decades, especially like in Baltimore. Yet you keep voting for them.
So there's two different ways I see what happens with voting. So one thing is, I remember having this conversation with a guy when I was running candidate locally. And this person like, I kept door knocking and I kept trying to tell him our candidate's this great person. Turns out she was a terrible person, but we didn't know that at the time. And he was like, and they wouldn't listen to my pitch. And I'm like, the problem is that you're from Montreal and you're a Canadians fan. Your wife is actually from Toronto and she's a Leafs fan. Now imagine if you're going door to door in Toronto, trying to tell them how they should be supporting the Canadians this year. And so what kind of reaction do you get from that? And the fact is that lots of people are voting based on, it's the same thing that we've always voted. We can never even countenance voting for someone else, no matter how bad it is, because
right.
Everyone I know knows that they're even worse.
But you know what's so funny about that? What's amazing to me for that?
Mm-hmm.
When a whole bunch of people on the conservative side said, you know what, we're tired of just voting for the same people over and over again because we're not actually getting what we want, so we're going to take a break, right? Mm-hmm. The Trump voters, those people were attacked vehemently.
Well, let
by
me
the
ask this
same
question.
people that say that the Democrats, are no good. So I kind of feel like the position is it's a man without there is nobody in power anywhere in this country that actually cares about the United States of America. Every institution's corrupt, is only interested in themselves, and nobody who actually has any power cares about anything but themselves and their own antisocial, narcissistic path.
Well, let's quantify that.
Yeah.
One of the things that's sort of been disturbing to me over the last few months are people that live like in Florida and they live in senior centers, or they live in, I don't know, they're older people and they have friends that they've had for 10, 20, 40 years. And the friends have apparently divorced or unfriended their Ricochet friends over things like Donald Trump is, so look at his policies, and friendships end over this. So that's a microcosm. My question is, I'm out here and I don't get to talk to really too many Americans, and I don't have a sense of what's going on in the continent really. What do you think the proportion is of not of the screaming progressives, but just the quiet progressives who can very quickly unburden their heart and say, you're a bad person and I don't ever want to talk to you again? How many people out of the Democrats
all
are actually all of them?
I think it's every single one, because they have
That's
the
not
right.
nice to hear.
Well, they have the power to do that, right? Because the media, because the zeitgeist is completely controlled. Every institution is controlled by them. The church is controlled, the military, the universities, the media, every single bit of culture. If you're a good person, you have to espouse liberal stuff. But I
they
think
believe it.
Well, I think kind of build it. They must. Why do they do it?
Right. They really believe
They
it.
must believe it. You can't. Today I said, I think this COVID thing showed us that with the FDA, that when the president, I didn't say President Trump, I said when the president shoved all that stuff out of the way, the FDA, it was demonstrated to be meaningless. And this person was unable to credit the president. Well, there was all this other stuff going on, and she could not give Trump any credit at all because it's blasphemy. And how, I don't know this again. This is why I think we're headed for a sectarian civil war, because it's, and I use the term sectarian because it's religious. You have people that have faith and belief in America as it is, and has been in the American dream, and then you have the people that want to destroy it, and they have faith in critical race theory. They have faith in, and if you don't believe, they're the ones who want to burn other people as heretics. They're the ones that want to suppress speech. They're the ones that want to cancel others. Cancel culture is a rehearsal for genocide. There is a religious awakening going on in this country, and it's all on the left, and it's all this horrible tribal mess. And it's hard to believe, if you have any sort of meaningful conversation with a Democrat, have any sort of meaningful conversation about politics with a Democrat, they get angry. They can't listen. They can't tolerate it. Now, maybe all of them is overstating it.
Yeah, it's certainly, I have had plenty of conversations with liberals and Democrats in the United States, which is not quite as bad as what you're saying. They can have those kind of things. But for a lot of the low-hanging fruit, they've just never been, they're not used to having conversations anymore. Anyone under the age of 30 for the most part. But then again, I remember being at work one day and a younger guy turned to me and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of this Ben Shapiro guy?" And I said, maybe. And he's like, "Me and my buddy sat on Saturday and Sunday watching nothing but Ben Shapiro destroys people videos." And I know lots of younger people are coming up that way, but I think it's more like during the American Revolution, we think of the Americans, and then the loyalists, the patriots and loyalists were this huge swaths of the population, but it turns out it's like 15 to 20% is really ultra patriot, and 10 to 15% was ultra loyalist, and the vast majority of people couldn't care less. I think that really is still true. It's just the people you're dealing with, especially in the media and all these other things, happen to be with.
No, but conservatives have to constantly watch themselves, and liberals don't. Liberals can say whatever they want to, and they're fine. They're just, and conservatives are the ones that are worried about losing their jobs. And we're to the point where if I say I think riots are a bad thing, I can lose my career. And Democrats are okay with that. And Democrats vote for the people and support the people. Democrats are okay with cancel culture. They support it.
Until they get canceled themselves. And I know a lot of people who have been canceled who are now against that kind of thing. And
unless they then vote for Republicans, they didn't learn their lesson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like, well, some of them aren't so bad. That's like saying we haven't really tried communism yet. I don't believe you can, at this point in the country, there's any such thing as, well, maybe at the local level, you can have Democrats that are okay. I find that hard to believe. Please find me a Democrat-run city that's run well.
I think some of the cities in Montana were.
Oh. Montana has Democrats?
At least, I certainly the last Democratic governor of that state was definitely someone, and was someone I would wish had won the nomination. And there's a few other rural places that are still being run well, but they are starting.
Well, I voted for Governor Barnes both times that he ran, and he was a Democrat, but that was now years ago.
Well, how do you get through to these people? How do you convert them? I'd say take an example. If COVID is now being blamed on the Chinese after a year and a half of propaganda, it seems like the people will give them 2 months.
But no, the only reason it's being blamed on the Chinese is because there's a high-ranking defector, defector, and the Biden administration has no choice but to back off calling it racist. Because there's now proof, and that was the Department of Defense, and not the, and they had the fact that they had him from the Department of Justice and from the FBI,
I know that's a bright and shining star in an otherwise dismal sky.
Yeah, and that's the only reason that meme is changing. That is the only reason, is because it can't possibly, can't maintain it anymore.
I guess that makes sense, but you'd think that they could even keep him secret, or they could badmouth him on Facebook and Twitter and just bury the story.
It's hard to bat, even today, even as the military falls off the cliff. As they're the last institution that has any credibility. Certainly the American people don't give the FBI or the DOJ any credibility, but they will give the DOD or DID or I feel like it's
DIA.
flag.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a Colonel Flag thing. I tell people I'm with the was it DID, so they'll think I'm with the CIA.
Yeah.
It's a MASH reference for you young people out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that episode ended a little bit abruptly, I think.
Yeah.
With him breaking his own arm.
Yeah. I just, and so I want to be wrong. It's just, it feels like the latter days of the Republic of Rome. I guess we haven't had a Sulla come in yet. Well, that's good.
A what?
Yeah.
Sulla. People always talk about Caesarism, but Caesar couldn't have done what he did without Sulla doing what he did.
And we haven't even had Marius yet, so that's pretty good.
Right. Yeah, there's potentially some steps to go.
Well, let me shift this a little bit. We were all supposed to come with a question, and mine was sort of, it's been addressed a good bit on Ricochet, but it's what shape, what in this year and next year, what do you see happening in the United States regarding, for me, it looks like this is going to become a states' rights battle. And I think Philo, I'm not sure, suggested that states form interstate compacts over this issue and that, so that they can present some sort of a uniform front to the administration.
Constitutionally, Congress can say that contract is null and void.
Well, it would be more like a memorandum of understanding.
Right.
But constitutionally, the states are supposed to have an awful lot more power than the federal government allows.
Well, I agree with that. And it's hilarious that the Biden administration is like, how dare Missouri pass this law flouting, you can't flout federal law on arms. Well, that ship sailed. States are already flouting drug laws.
Immigration
laws.
Now the immigration stuff is really in the immigration stuff, the states are really in the wrong on, because that is clearly a federal thing.
Yeah.
But on the federal drug laws, really the federal government doesn't have any business having those laws in the first place. If they're not enforcing those, but now we're going to turn around and we're going to enforce these other rules. I can see states saying either we're just going to ignore you because we don't care. I think that's what needs to happen. I think for the things to turn around is the states, the legislatures and the governors do need to work together and simply say to the federal government, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And if it's withhold money, you do that. We're not going to, our federal tax money will not come from our citizens to you.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
at that point, you feds don't. Now, do you Democrats actually have the cojones are you actually going to roll troops into the Montana or Texas or someplace and take those states over militarily? Are you actually going to do that?
Their other problem is that they're currently involving in a purge of their military ranks once again. So that's also like, can they count on the loyalty of troops that would go into these areas?
But even if 40% of the military is conservative, that's a big number. I mean, I don't even know, but even if it's just 40%, a purge of 40% of the military is really going to affect their ability to do a lot of things.
Yeah, that's especially if they are the way they're political correctness in all the military, so they're spending more time in diversity training than they are necessarily doing training itself.
But it turns it into the Chinese army.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to wait and see if they start appointing commissars. That's when I'll start really worrying.
Well, of course, the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
what you have is the units most likely to be used, though, to keep the peace are National Guard units, which are the most connected to civilians.
Right.
Right. So, and this is the sort of thing people don't know about. There's lots of military equipment from National Guard units that just is not exactly where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're going to turn the military on the population. There's a lot of vets out there that would resent that.
Mm-hmm.
Who know? Here's the thing: in a sectarian civil war, the United States is full of a whole bunch of men who actually know how to fight. Oh, and by the way, they've just spent 20 years learning how to fight insurgencies.
Yep.
Do we have any doubt in a sectarian civil war that most of the military that fought insurgencies would A, be against the oppressive tyrannical government, and B, know just what the heck they're doing? That's the thing that scares me. It would be child's play to cripple the country.
It's true. Me and Steve Ryder have talked about that in some of our other shows, where it's sort of like,
but
I don't
look at
have to use military to do it either.
Yeah,
but
no,
look at
you just have to
Atlanta.
know what you're doing.
Atlanta, maybe Augusta and Savannah, but Atlanta is basically the blue section, I think, of Georgia, right? But they have all the power, and unless unless there's significantly more changes in how the elections are done in Georgia, Atlanta's going to keep its power, I think, its electoral power. How would you, if you're just going back to that they could cripple the country, how do you deal with, how would that look just in a state like Georgia, with Atlanta being basically?
Oh, well, that's easy. You destroy the bridges across the Chattahoochee into the city, destroy the railroad tracks, block the interstates. The metropolitan area starts running out of food within a week.
It's sooner than that, guys.
You don't let any 3 days. You don't let any food in. There's no power. It wouldn't take very long. You destroy a few of the substations. There's not a supply of those. There's already been an attack on one out west that they don't talk about, but which was shot up. It was clearly a dry run. And
that was a sniper attack.
Yeah,
that one.
And then and the truckers are mostly conservative. There's no food coming in. The rest of rural Georgia, guess what it has? Food. That's where the food's grown. And every major city is vulnerable in this country. If the people don't truck food into them, they all start to starve immediately.
Yeah.
Right. So if the rural countryside says we're done, we're not going to play the game anymore because it's rigged against us, the cities starve. And then what do? Right? Oh, the rich people aren't starving, but where they're not, there'll be food riots.
Yeah.
That's what a sectarian civil war looks like. Oh, and are you safe in your green zone with all of you're flying your drones and everything? Where's your family? Where are your friends? Where are the people that they're bloody and horrible, horrible things?
But how does that end well?
I don't think it ends well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I think
then you're talking about 10 or 20 years of sectarian violence.
Right. It ends the current people's power. Somebody else will end up in power. I don't know what that would look like. Sectarian civil wars usually end up poorly.
Mm.
But that's where we're headed, because we're headed to a tribal meltdown. right? It's at what point do all of these, at some point, the logical end of critical race theory and blaming Whitey for everything is kill Whitey, take his stuff.
Yeah,
That's
the problem
where
is that
we've
there's
seen it happen.
70% of the population is still white. That's not it's a bad plan for them on the long term. I think it's like,
I agree, but that doesn't, so what? You look, to lean on Victor Davis Hanson,
mm,
there is no
mm,
rational, logical reason for Japan to attack the United States of America. There is no way for them to win the war, right? None. They have no hope of ever bombing our factories. They have no hope of invading the continental United States. The moment that they attack Pearl Harbor, the only way they can win the war is hoping that the American people just won't keep fighting.
yep. That is exactly their entire plan.
Yeah, and by the end of the war, the United States had 30-something fleet carriers.
Yep.
The
Yeah, that
Essex
was
Storm.
Yes, I agree that the people at the top are not making rational decisions because they've never had to face the consequences of
Right.
their actions. So they're blundering into this. I agree. There's no one like intentionally starting this problem up. I see that perfectly as a historian. They remind me so much of like the French nobles right before the revolution starts.
Yes,
and
that's the thing. I said this to somebody on Ricochet. I won't mention their name, but they're a contributor, saying blah 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 blah. I said, well, this is my understanding through history. I was talking about being pessimistic, and he bitches at me about not being, or fusses at me about being pessimistic. Why do you bring everybody down? I said, it's my reading of history. And he goes, well, I don't really know a lot about history. My argument is you really can't know about politics if you don't know about history.
Correct.
Now, does that rule most of our politicians out of knowing about history? Yeah. You know, that was one of the things that made Newt Gingrich so cool.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say that what you're talking about, the heads not knowing what they're doing. You know, I've been rather concerned about statements from Merrick Garland and Christopher Wray. They seem to be actually poking conservatives in the eye, saying, "I dare you to punch me." You know, they're really they look like they're trying to foment this civil war that you're talking about.
Well, they think it'll all be like the stuff at the Capitol, right? Well, if we could just have a few more conservative riots, right? We can blame conservatives. We can lock people down. You're a Trump support. You know, literally they talked about these people were Trump supporters, so we're going to put them on a no-fly list. I mean, I think what they want are incidences that they think, well, this would be a small little incident, and then we can be outraged and do what we've done with
it treated like random gun attacks, mass shootings. They want to treat it like mass shootings, where they can like then trump up their base for money and get some more people outraged, so they'll come out and vote for them the next time. They don't realize necessarily that. It reminds me of the start of World War I. So there had been, I was listening to this thing, and they were talking about there had been all these crises that had happened in the lead up to the first 20 years before World War I, and the Morocco crisis, all these things.
Right.
And they all took months to resolve, and everything, there'd be international commissions, there'd be a lot of tensions and ships showing up, but nothing would, in the end, ultimately bad would happen. But the problem was for Russia, they had been already twice been forced to back down from a fight. And they said, if we do it a third time, we're all going to be chumps and we're going to lose all our influence. So we have to go. And it's a similar situation here, is that you're pushing them and you're pushing them, and you're pushing them. Suddenly they're going to really push back hard and start a war that no one can win.
Yeah. I think that's the way things go, and you've got to, but they keep winning and winning and winning. And I do think it really is like the aristocratic class in France. That's very much what it feels like. Oh, they'll be fine. No, blah, 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 blah. And then boom, right?
Yeah.
and crazy people took over.
Yeah.
But it's not, and we can look at the French Revolution and we say it's awful, and but the reality is all those peasants revolting had a point.
Mm-hmm.
They were oppressed and getting screwed. The reason our revolution worked is we were the least oppressed people in the world. Just, I mean, it was really a civil war, but it was a civil war between nations.
Yeah.
And
I maintained it would never happen that they just gave people members of parliament and made Virginia always have more MPs than anyone else.
Yep. And then, of course, at the end of the war, the Tories got stripped of their land and shipped to Canada.
And a few other places. But yeah.
But that helped solve things. And then at the end of the American Civil War, the people in the South, the leaders in the South, basically said, okay, we're done. We're done fighting, and we're not going to engage in this big guerrilla thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing how much people want to hate Robert E. Lee today. But Robert E. Lee, can say whatever they want about him, but Robert E. Lee said, we're done, I'm going home. He could have led Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Oh, yeah.
Could have led all sorts of awful, awful sectarian crap that could have gone on. They said, nope, we're done. It's time to get on with it.
Yeah, I remember hearing about when they all were fleeing Richmond, and they had this train of like all the Confederate treasury was fleeing with the President Davis and some of his cabinet, and he had a bodyguard of like 70,000 men. And as they're going further and further south, more and more the soldiers came up and said, can we get our payout? Because they could tell it was over. And supposedly there's still some of that silver treasure locked somewhere. I can't remember. It was one of those lost treasure shows. Brian, do you have something you want to bring up other than the ongoing Civil War?
Aliens.
UFOs.
Oh,
yes,
good.
UFOs.
Thank
And why they're
God.
not, it's not aliens.
Okay, so you think it's like a nation state somewhere? I'm going with ultra-terrestrials myself.
Bro, I don't. First off, it's like first off, when we look at all the kind of the military footage, it's all infrared stuff. I don't think there's anything there. The reality is, I saw a really funny graphic, and it like showed quality of cameras, going up, and it showed quality of UFO pics, and so here's kind of why I really don't think it's alien. So I'm gonna start with the Fermi Paradox. The Fermi Paradox is in a nutshell, for people who don't know what it is the idea is that the universe looks like it should be old enough for there to be some other civilization out there that we could detect. It took our planet 4.5 billion years to have life, and life really didn't get very interesting on Earth until about 500 million years ago with the Cambrian explosion. And humanity is not even 100, I'd say species were not even 100,000 years old. And we've only had civilization for 10, 15,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems reasonable, as long as we're still here, or our descendants are still here, in 1 million years, that we will have a really big footprint that you could see from anywhere in this galaxy and pretty much any other galaxy. We can't see that footprint in our own galaxy. We can't see that footprint in anybody else's any galaxy near us. And so that's why it's called the Fermi Paradox, because it's like, well, wait a minute, if we're kind of normal, there really ought to have been somebody sooner. And there's lots of reasons. They talk about filters and great filters and all sorts of. I personally think the eukaryote is probably a huge filter, and I think that whole event, that looks like that event may have happened once, and it's huge because it lets our cells have energy and get bigger, and you can look up eukaryotes, but that's that whole nucleus and mitochondria and everything. So it doesn't look like there's anybody out there that we can see. One. Two, every bit of science that we have just continues to confirm the speed of light, or rather the speed of transmission of information, the speed of causality. That's really solid. And if you can move faster than light, it actually makes the Fermi Paradox worse, because that means people ought to be able to colonize even faster. So it seems like, you know, it just doesn't look like we can see anybody else. And unless you've got some sort of weird technology, frankly, we'd see you coming, because moving between the energy to move between the stars, you could see that. So we're forced to, if it's aliens, they've got to have some sort of weird technology that uses, you know, that says our understanding of several laws of physics are completely wrong, even though they're very well tested. And not only do they have that incredible control of physics in a way we can't even comprehend, then they come to Earth and we can then accidentally see them, or sort of see them, sort of, but not really. I mean, it's like that just, it doesn't seem logical to me. It's like, why could I sort of see them now, but not ever well enough to really pin anything down? I mean, what's the goal there? What's the, well, that just doesn't seem like the action of an intelligent species.
Well, if any of the videos are accurate, it does look like they're playing with humanity, or playing with fighter pilots.
Also, they like to fly over nuclear bases and turn the missiles on and off.
You got a link for that?
Yeah, there's a few places. I don't have it on the top of my head, but yeah, there's the guy who's on Sarah Carter's show on Ricochet all the time, and he's the former, like, he was one of the guys who used to be a CIA agent. He used to be in charge of the DoD department that was investigating UFOs, and he's one of the guys that's been coming out, and he basically said, yeah, Sarah Carter's like, so what do these aliens do if they're really out there? And he's like, well, they fly over missile bases and turn them on and off.
Did you say that they're ultra-terrestrials?
So ultra-terrestrial is different than an extraterrestrial. An ultra-terrestrial implies, like, maybe, are you guys familiar with Doctor Who?
Yes.
The Silurians would be an ultra-terrestrial species. A precursor humans or other civilization that develops on Earth but has remained hidden for whatever reason on the Earth, like Atlantis, would be an ultra-terrestrial group. So an advanced precursor civilization, either humans, Neanderthal, or some other species that lives on Earth and has been keeping an eye on us. So that's one possibility.
Not hyper-intelligent dinosaurs?
Yes, that would be hyper-intelligent dinosaurs, which is what the Silurians were on Doctor Who, is an ultra.
Of course, the Silurian, horribly misnamed, since the Silurian period did not have dinosaurs in it.
Yeah, well, hey,
it's Doctor Who.
Yeah. Well,
the thing is that I guess I kind of run from the other thing that I come from, it's kind of like I love the guy that does the PBS Space Time, and what he says, it's never aliens unless it's aliens. The thing is, there's lots of astrophysicists and astronomers, and they would love it to be aliens. Very intelligent people would love this to be aliens more than anything.
So do you think we should go to Venus?
But because, well, yes, but because of that, they really want the rigorous evidence and proof. And I think if what you're going to say is, if it's aliens or ultra-terrestrials or demons and whatever it is you're going to postulate, as the extraordinary I guess solution for what's going on, you really have to have really good evidence to make that sort of extraordinary claim. And when, like what was posted on the Answers with Joe's thing that was posted on Ricochet, and it's basically a Mylar balloon could conceivably answer all of these questions about what's going on with this camera. Well, aliens or Mylar balloon?
But if it's Mylar balloon, why don't we just say it's a Mylar balloon? Right. Why did everyone consistently, why is this thing coming out now? Why are we getting this stuff revealed? Why is this becoming something an issue? Why does the government continue denying it's ever happening?
Well, because the government, what? Suddenly I'm supposed to expect the government's competent? They're a bunch of incompetent buffoons. And just because it's military people, big damn deal. I mean, in World War II, people flying in B-29s were convinced, speaking of Venus, convinced they were being chased by Foo Fighters and shot at these Foo Fighters that were chasing them. It's the planet Venus. Mm. So human beings are, and this is my area of expertise, human beings are lousy, lousy, lousy eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
Horrible. And we'll see what we want to see, and then we'll put stuff together. And again, it boils down to extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Mm. And I am more than willing to believe in government. Remember, the Department of Defense did a bunch of research into ESP and stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of scientists who got fooled by Uri Geller and other, magicians with little magician tricks. So I just prove it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm more than willing
to. The day the Earth stood still, I would accept.
Yeah.
It'd be a good start. And yes, I'm excited about us sending probes back to Venus. I hope the one thing NASA seems to do well is send probes places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I think that SpaceX will be landing on the moon with their lander, and the SLS will still not have done anything, right? Yeah. I think Elon Musk is going to be like, well, our lander's ready to go, and y'all aren't ready. You know what? We'll just go. We're just going to go.
Yeah, I agree.
If you pay us some money, we'll take your guys.
Yep. Yeah, no,
well, that's my.
But there's something going on, and 99,000 to out of a million or whatever it is going to be probably some unnatural phenomena we just don't understand yet, which is actually my usual guess. It's like,
oh, wow. John Walker postulated it was four-dimensional aliens mating because they needed to mate inside of a gravity well. Mm.
And it's also possible that we could be dealing with extra dimensional people coming from one dimension into ours, like parallel universe coming to visit here with a much more advanced civilization. Hey, there's lots of ideas.
It could be a glitch in the simulation too.
Yeah.
Or fairies. Maybe it's fairies.
So just remember that the speed of light is only something that we've been testing for 400 years. It might have been different to speed 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago. I mean, what I'm saying is that we're all coming from this from a very, very Earth-centric view.
But there's no reason. There's no reason to think that the speed of causality is a changing metric. And in fact, much of what we understand about the universe, there are so many things in the universe that are just, if they were off by just a little bit, the universe wouldn't exist the way that it does. I mean, there's one constant that if it was just a little bit different, stars couldn't exist. Mm. They'd either blow apart or collapse. So, and the speed of light's just been one of those things that's been really key to so much. Like if the speed of light was different, the amount of energy that was in matter would be different.
Mm. True.
With E equals mc squared.
Yep.
But who knows? They've come up with some really weird things. The big rips, fascinating.
They're still working on that warp drive they figured out how to make possible. So we'll see if that ever comes into being. There's lots of people come up with all kinds of weird stuff over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anyone will ever go faster than the speed of light, but I do think there are people will find like some sort of weird assumption.
Well, I think we'll try forever, or our ancestors will try for, you know, our descendants will try forever. Yeah, whatever it is we turn into. But because it would be so useful, just like anti-gravity. If you can make anti-gravity work somehow, we don't even understand what gravity is.
Yeah. Have you ever read the story Her Big Ballow by Harry Turtledove? So it's this basically first it's set several hundred years after the collapse of the Human Federation that conquered half the galaxy. And these guys are sitting there. This guy is a Star Trader, shows up. He shows up at his boss's office, and she's like, "Have you ever seen one of the original First Contact videos?" And he's like, "Well, I haven't, but no." And they shows like the video camera shows like New York in 2020, and an alien ship is landing there, and the thing is surrounded by like tanks and armored personnel carriers. And the woman's like, "Well, they've been broadcasting it for several days when they first noted the ships arriving, and they, of course, they never got a radio signal back." And you're like, why wouldn't they get the radio signal back? And then the gangplank of the ship closes down. 100 aliens walk out with like looking like Wookiees with muskets, and they fire a volley round fire into like the crowd, whereupon the tanks and APCs tear them to pieces. Turns out faster light travel and anti-grav are very simple experiments. And if you develop them early on, it skews your entire tech structure away from useful things like nuclear power and and physics and all this other stuff. You have to come up with the math to explain why your stuff works, and it screws you up. So humanity ends up conquering half the galaxy. Because they have radar and missiles and
early. So that's a precursor to the humans literature that's common.
Sorry, which one?
If you look up HFY science fiction,
okay,
it's a bunch of science fiction that basically is, you see sometimes but it's stories that are basically humans are not average like they are in so many stories. The idea is that humans are really scary. Humans are space orcs. You know, it's like, and there's some good physiological stuff on that. We really are a bizarre species compared to other animals on our planet. First off, our color vision is unusual. Primates and birds have our color vision, and then you don't really see it in other large animals. A classic one is our ability to run and run and run. We can outrun anything on the planet over time. Well, I mean, probably not the three of us, but human beings, right? Some guy from who still does it in Africa. But we evolved to be this cursorial long distance hunter. You can't. The guy ran for marathon and dropped dead is actually kind of not what human beings do. We can't really run ourselves to death. That's why it's such a spectacular story. An antelope will literally can run itself until it has a stroke.
Right.
We hold our breath. We can hold our breath like a sea mammal. Slow our heartbeat, do all those other things. Most land mammals can't do that. We're the only animal on the planet that can throw anything. Our bodies are built to throw. Monkeys.
I've seen some monkeys throw some stuff.
Not like a human being. They toss them, right? But you put a spear in the head of a monkey. Heck, primates can't even bring a club down strongly. They can hit, but they can't do it like we do. And our grip is different than theirs. Actually, we're the only people. Our fists are designed to punch people and other people in the jaw, thus the male jaw. So, but there's all these features about human beings that are just outliers compared to other species on the planet. Like our need for water which is why we can run so long, right? Is because we're so good at getting rid of heat. But we pay for that. We gotta get water.
Mhm.
We gotta drink a lot more, but we're smart enough to go get the water. But that was a bunch of physiological stuff that doesn't even have to do with our speech or our ability to communicate. Our intelligence is normally what we think makes us stand out. But is the speech, like the Olympics, we can climb trees still. The Olympics have a bunch of events that other animals just couldn't do, right? You couldn't have other animals doing the things that human beings do.
Mhm.
Pole vaulting.
I was thinking the biathlon, but that's kind of hard. That's unfair for the animals who can't fire the rifle.
Well, they could participate on the other side.
Well,
That
the
is what it's
chimpanzees can ice skate. I mean, that, they might give us a run for our money there.
Oh, and they certainly can ice skate. I wouldn't want to be anywhere. I wouldn't want to be within hand-to-hand range of a chimpanzee. But I don't have to be, because I can throw a weapon. It was interesting because, like, Sandy Peterson, if you look it up, did a great thing on this. He was one of the original creators of the game Call of Cthulhu.
Right.
And now he's got Peterson Games, but he's got a YouTube thing on how humans are amazing. And one of the things he said is, well, what if you had a species that didn't throw weapons, didn't understand what a ranged weapon was? Could you have an alien species that built a spaceship, but they didn't have rifles and things? Kind of like your point,
Yep.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Of course, in science fiction, you in fantasy, you always have human beings as the template who's average, and everybody else differs from us, because that's what makes sense. And other races are always stand-in for other cultures and whatnot. But the reality is we might be terrifying to another species. Let's say you had a species that's from a planet like Mars with low oxygen. Ours, like a low oxygen species, would be super fast, move really quickly, have all sorts of energy. Oh, and by the way, our spit would be really acidic.
You remind me of that Ben Bova series, where the aliens come to Earth and start secretly recruiting us to be their soldiers because, like, they've never seen any species quite as cool as us, and like, hey, it's weird. These people should have a peaceful civilization, but they all have multiple countries, and they have like all their technology is really crappy, except for their military technology, which is centuries ahead of even almost to us. Like, anyways, that was a great discussion, guys. I'd love to play a game of Cthulhu with you sometime, Brian. I think that'd be an interesting experience.
Oh, well, I'm doing an online game. I would not be against trying to run a Ricochet online game using Roll20. I haven't run, and if I did Cthulhu, it'd be Pope Cthulhu now, because.
No, yeah, I've run I've run both the published modules for that. Yeah. The Two-Fisted Serpent is a very good module.
Well, right now, I'm next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, I will be getting to play Lee Chan in the Mask of Nyarlathotep.
Oh God!
He is a chauffeur for his boss, Mr. Silver, who, and both of them before the campaign started at night would go out and beat up crime as the Crimson Fox and his sidekick. So.
My severed head is at the back of Delta Green.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, see here, I'm gonna here at the very end. How do I do this? None. Did that work? No, that didn't work. No.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Well, no, the room that I'm
head right
in,
there in the back. I paid for that.
the room that I'm in. There we go.
Yep.
So that's all my gaming books up there. Oh, well, much of my gaming books.
Yeah.
So I've got my there's D&D, there's old AD&D modules, there's champions and Star Hero and vampire and werewolf, and so that's kind of the
As you
big
can
into
see, this
gaming.
is actually my bookshelf that's over here, but my camera's not facing it, so I
Oh,
took a photo of it. So yeah, there's
no,
a lot of my
okay. Never mind.
there's a bunch of Babylon 5 role-playing game, Twilight 2000 in the corner, World of Darkness all over the place.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Anyways, it's
Then
been a
he's
great-
like, this, you guys are just weird. Oh, can I say, I love the fact that you've got like the world's most interesting man beard. And
Yep.
that fits your avatar. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, it's getting. I think this has been a great episode, and hopefully we'll see you guys later. Flicker, you've wanted to maybe come on as a permanent co-host. I think that might be something we can do. If you're still interested.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not exactly in your time zone yet, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. I didn't realize what time it was, so yeah, I have. Now that I know it's 7 to 8 a.m. your time for when we sometimes stream, and even if we go earlier, it's fine with you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Tell Don, I'm praying for him. Good luck.
Yeah.
With the new gig. And yeah, thank you very much. It was fun.
Yep. This has been great.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Okay.
All
It was
right.
a pleasure.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.